All right, before I write anything down, just one house cleaning item. Because Martin Luther King Day, we have off on January 18th. Normally, your Khan Academy would be due that Sunday at midnight. But because we have Monday off, I will extend your Khan Academy for January 18th, which is a Monday. So your next Khan Academy is due Monday, January 18th at midnight. And then you go over the 2 required mastered skills. I'll put your name in a hat that many times, and then I'll pick it just for this class.
Wait, when is Martin Luther King Day?
Monday, January 18th.
So it's due Monday, January 18th?
At midnight.
Oh, okay.
We don't have school that day. All right, Maddie? Okay. Careful what you say. You're being recorded right now.
Very good. I'm always careful about what I say every day.
Good.
At all times, unlike some people.
Uh-huh.
I have a new student, and I was just questioning replacement as if they were in his mindset accelerated.
Okay.
Coming from Allen Park,
Okay.
pre-algebra 7, had a B+.
Oh, yep.
So, all right?
That's fine.
All right. Very good. Nice kid starting tomorrow with you.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Boy or girl? Aiden?
Boy.
Okay. Great.
Very good.
We'll take it. We will take it. All right. Power Standard 3. I can Statement 1A. Not only is there an A, but there will also be a B for this one. I can identify and graph integers. Now, our first vocabulary word of the new year is going to be integers. An integer is a positive or negative whole number. An integer is a positive or negative whole number. For example, Kroopy left and came back. For example, 5, negative 8, 112, negative 226. Those are integers. If you get an answer in this entire power standard, for this entire unit, that is a fraction or a decimal, you did something wrong. All of our answers will be a whole value. Whether that value is positive or negative is to be determined. But just know that if you get a decimal or a fraction, you did something wrong. And also remember, you're not allowed to use a calculator until March 11th, the end of the trimester. Okay? So the first part of this is identifying integers. So let me draw our first example. So what you're going to have to do here after you copy down this number line is identify each point's value. Please do not call this a graph. This is not a graph. This is a number line. Can anybody tell me what the value of point A is? Josh.
0.
And that's what you would write down on your paper. 0. And what's the value of point B, Zarar? 1. So you would write 1 onto your paper. And Alyssa, what's the value of point C? So you would write -2 on your paper. And that's it. Yes, it is.
How'd you say trimester 2 is the hardest?
It is. It'll get more difficult. It will. Is number 1's number line horizontal or vertical? Horizontal. Good. So let's take a look at a vertical number line. So you're going to have to tell me the exact numerical value for point D. Jacob. -100 is correct. -100 is directly in between 0 and -200. Remember, if you get a decimal for your answer, if you get a fraction for your answer is incorrect. Because this whole chapter, chapter 3, power standard 3, is on integers. Integers is strictly a positive or negative whole number. No fractions, no decimals until power standard 4. Sorry about the lights. So we have here E and F. Point E and point F. So after you copy that down, see if you can figure out what point E is. Tim?
2.
2 is correct. And Hannah, what about point F?
-6.
-6 is correct. The increments were by 4. So we went 0, 4, 8, 0, -4, -8. So in between 0 and 4 is 2. In between -4 and -8 is -6. So that's how we got those values. Any questions about identifying integers? Because we're about to do the graphing part right now. Okay? Bless you. So the next part is the graphing aspect. if I can block this sun. It's a little better, but it's on the... All right, so where would I put the letter Q, Adriana?
Right when -3.
Correct. Yep. Do that. And put a Q there. So that's graphing integers on a number line. That would be graphing them. And then our final example. Plot -15 on the number line and label it with a T. At 15?
Well, I mean, a little bit to the left. Maybe 15.
No. You're close. Angelina? Right.
Oh, 18.
-18. That's okay. So we'll put it right here, smack dab in the middle, and we'll label it with the letter T. Does anybody have any questions on how we plotted point Q or point T? No? Cutie? QT? Get it? Q, T? Get it? All right, any questions about identifying? Looking at the number line and telling me what the value is. Are you guys okay? What about plotting them on the number line itself? You guys are good? Okay. Then let's move on to I can statement 1B. I can find the absolute value of a number, which brings up our second vocabulary word, absolute value. And absolute value is the distance between the given number and 0. Distance. Distance, distance, distance. So what's the absolute value of 5? How far is 5 from 0? Katie? 5. 5 is 5 spaces from 0. What's the absolute value of negative 16? How far from 0 is 16? What's the distance between 0 and negative 16? Maddie? 16. Find the distance between points A and B. What is the distance between those 2 points? How far apart are they? Kylie? 6 would be the correct answer. And our last example of today. Actually, we're going to do one more after this one. The distance between C and D. The distance between C and D. Mackenzie. 8? How'd you get 8? Okay. Layla? 12 is correct. Four, 6, 8, 12. 2, 4, 6. And now the last example, going by the same directions, find the distance between the 2 points. Example 5. What is the distance between R and S? What is the distance between R and S? Jacob? 9. Timmy? I got 8. R is at what location? 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Huh? It does go by 2s. It goes 2, 4, 6, 8. So in between 4 and 6 is -5. Right? And the distance between -5 and 3 is 8. Now, what was unique about all of our answers. Every answer. 8, 12, 6, 10, and 5. Johnny? They were all positive. Why was that? Why was every single answer positive, Jake?
Because, you made it that way.
No, I didn't make it that way. No, that's not how I made it. Alyssa?
Because you can't prove negative distance.
Correct. Absolute value. The definition says the distance. You can't go a negative distance. It's impossible to go a negative distance. Okay? And I had students in my third hour ask me this, well, Mr. Meeks, if I'm here and I walk here, but I walk backwards 5 steps. I go, well, you're walking a positive distance, you're just walking backwards. Well, then you're just going back to where you started. It's still a positive distance that is taking place. Another example. If you leave your house and come to school, positive distance, traveled. And you go from your school to your house, that is a positive distance traveled. Example. It takes you, 10 miles to go from home to school. And then you turn around and go from school to home. Another 10 miles. What was the distance traveled? Angelina? 20 miles. If I walk 5 steps backwards and then turn around and walk 5 steps backwards again, I took a total of 10 steps. Backwards. I just walked backwards. And then a student in third hour brought up a great point. Location. Because he said, well, Mr. Meeks, on a number line, we have -3, we have -4. Look at this example, Mr. Meeks. You put -5 right there. How is this negative if there's no negative distances? It's a great question. This is a location. Let me say that again. This point is a location. You can have a location of -5 on a number line. You can have a location of -12 on a number line. In real life, you can be 12 miles below sea level. In real life, New Orleans is 40 feet below sea level. That's why they have to build a big wall to keep the water from coming ashore. Because New Orleans is below sea level. They're like -40 feet. Anybody in here ever swim? Or ever been in a pool? Raise your hand. Okay, so everybody in here has been in a pool. Has anybody ever jumped in a pool and swam down and touched the bottom? Yeah, me too. And guess what? Your location might have been -4 feet. Because maybe the pool was only 4 feet deep. Or maybe the pool was feet deep. And your goggles were down there. You know, somebody throws your goggles in. You're like, oh, great, now I got to go all the way down the deep end and get my goggles. And then you dive down in the water and you get all the way down to 8 feet below the water level. You're at negative 8 feet. That's the location. And you grab your goggles. Now, how far did you swim? You might have swam 10 feet. You might have had to have swum 20 feet from the shallow end to the deep end. The distance swam, not really sure. The distance that you swam, will always be positive. But the location of your body when you pick up the goggles, since you're underwater, is negative because you're underwater. Anybody ever heard of the Grand Canyon? Yeah, the Grand Canyon, if you walk 1,500 miles, or I don't even know what it is, I'll just say 300 miles. You walk or drive 300 miles down into that canyon, you drove 300 miles. But guess what? Your location is negative 300 miles below sea level. I don't know if those numbers are correct. I'm just making them up. But that's just an example. It might be more, it might be less. I'm really not sure. It's to the bottom of the canyon? Okay. And don't also forget that the top of the Grand Canyon is thousands, I think, of feet above sea level. Just like mountains. You know, they say, well, a mountain, you get to the peak of Mount Everest. It's like 20,000 some feet above sea level. And then the Grand Canyon is what, 5 miles or 25 miles below sea level. Now, and we'll get into more of the location aspect of it later. But I want to just, since we have a few minutes left, 5 mile, you don't have to copy this down, below sea level is equivalent to negative 5 miles. Here's the reason why. It's a double negative. It's a double negative. In English, can you have a double negative? And in math, what happens when you get a double negative? It becomes positive. So you have to be careful here.